End is the beginning. 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 End is the beginning.
El final es el principio.
End is the beginning.
Until you reach the end of something, you cannot begin again.
The struggle is that space just before the end when you get to the new beginning. This is really important. It's spiritual geography, so let me say this again. The struggle is the space just before the end that leads to the new beginning. And love is the compass that guides us through the struggle to the end that leads to the new beginning. Have you met the struggle? Let us introduce you.
The struggle is getting the call that your homeless sister, Joletta, was found multiple states away, drowned in a lake. She was 7 months pregnant.
The struggle is our 8-year-old neighbor, Tay. We live in the heart of downtown, and until a couple of months ago, she'd never seen City Hall.
The struggle is a Latinx youth that is not allowed to speak Spanish in the school and make him ashamed of the language of his mother, when for a white kid, 2 languages is like 1 skill, and it's something to be proud about.
The struggle is 3 Asheville children losing their mother to ICE custody during a routine traffic stop. Family separation happens here too.
The struggle is a couple coming off the frozen December streets into our home. They, like many African American people in Asheville, had grandparents that owned a home in Montford. Imagine going from homeowners to homeless in just 2 generations. Urban renewal did that.
The struggle is a man coming to our house saying, illegal, 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 40 times. Try to dehumanize the people, because when you dehumanize somebody, you make okay kids being in cages.
She died on the first cold night in October of 2016. She was Jane Doe 356 for 5 days until the police came and knocked on our door. That's what happens when you're family. They come to your door. She froze to death in a red sleeping bag on the river, just across from New Belgium Brewery on the night of their grand opening party.
We knew her as Janet, the woman that loved turtles. And our community sat with that pain for over a month. And we know that you can't have a new beginning unless you sit in the pain sometimes. And so out of that pain, we created the first homeless and formerly homeless street medic team in the country. And we also know that your housing situation should not be a death sentence, which is why we have begun to cultivate the Beloved Village. So we need all of you to help us build home for our community. Can y'all help me in this?
There are moments like this one where everything changes, where you can't go back to the way things were. Moments that take you to the edge, like this stage, and it feels like an end. These are moments that require us to look past it, to leap to a new beginning. This is the moment when life hands you a gift. And it's the gift of your rebirth. End is the beginning. The struggle has always been with us, but you have to have eyes to see it. And the courage sometimes to move closer to it, to get proximate to it, to feel what it feels like, to taste and see and hear. And only when you get close up to the struggle can a new beginning really happen. On July 1st, 2016, Jerry Williams was shot and killed by the Asheville Police Department. It's a statistic, a headline. 3 people a day nationally are shot and killed by the police. But suddenly, it had happened here. It became personal. I remember thinking, oh my God, Ferguson has happened here. What should we do? And then I heard on July 5th that there was going to be a vigil in a park downtown. And so I made my way down there. And when I got there, I knew almost everyone except this bench full of women. And I thought, this must be his family. And so I went over and began to reach out my hands. And I met Jerry's mom and his godmama and his aunties. And I began to offer my condolences to them. And suddenly, a national headline became very real. Just seeing the pain on their faces, coming close to a family going through that struggle. And all I knew was that love transforms. And so I just kept staying near to them. And they began to trust me to walk them through their grief. Headlines became faces full of tears, became horrific photos and bloodstains. I met children that had seen his body laying on the street of their neighborhood, exposed for hours in the hot summer sun. Headlines suddenly faded in the distance. Statistics, like the fact that in 2018, 1,166 people were shot and killed by the police, 3 a day, or that you're 3 times more likely as an African American person than your white peers to die at the hands of the police in an encounter. 99% are never convicted. But those headlines began to fade, and the reality of a family that could hardly contain their pain. It's when I began to talk about a tale of 2 cities that we have in Asheville, one black and one white, with drastically different outcomes depending on what side of the invisible line you happen to be on. And I began to talk and wonder and agonize on how love can heal a city like this divided. I met Jerry in his coffin 30 days later. Imagine a mother getting a call that you can't even fathom, that your child has been killed, and then not getting to see his body for 30 days. And as we walked together into the funeral home, I'll never forget the director pulling me into a room. I've done this as a pastor thousands of times with people, walked to have a viewing of your loved one's body, but this had never happened. He said, "She cannot touch him. It's been too long. He'll just disintegrate if she touches him. She may not even want to have the casket open." But like Mamie Till before her, she insisted on seeing him and having that coffin open. I remember there was a piece of plexiglass covering the top half of his body. He was in a crisp white suit, a black shirt, a white tie. And I remember how strange the white gloves looked, because I knew that 7 bullets had riddled his body and one of them had blown off his left arm, and that's why the gloves were there. I remember her bending over to kiss the plexiglass underneath where his lips were. And I remember she began swaying back and forth and caressing over his face the glass and saying, my son, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to you, my son. And I remember she almost fell over, and I caught her, and her grief filled my body. I could feel it in my body. And her moans mixed in with the jazz music being piped in. Can I tell you the anguish of too many childless mamas, too many widows, too many orphans, too many children traumatized on the other side of sirens and blue lights? And I would go home to my 2-year-old babies and think, I don't want them to ever experience this. Or walking into their preschool classroom and seeing the young boys whose statistics hang over their heads like deadly weapons. And I thought, I don't want to live in a world, I don't want to raise them in a world like this. Can you help me end this?
She died when she was 16. She was my first girlfriend. I was 14 and I remember myself crying in different places, trying to understand what life is about, why she died. She was only 16. And I remember in one point I realized that maybe life gave me the gift of knowing her in this life. And when she died, gave me the gift of liberation. Because since she died, I never see life in the same way. I started enjoying every moment, like even now being here, I'm present here. Like I'm not random in other places, I'm here and I feel it. It was a gift of her. When I was 21, my cousin was killed by a gunshot. And I remember myself again crying in different places, trying to understand what life is about. I remember that he called me a month before he died. And he said, can you spend time with me? You know, I have been working all this time. I have a lot of money, only I don't have time to spend the money. And I said, yeah, I can help you. I can help you to spend money. Yeah. So I went there. We spent a lot of time in the mountains. We spent a lot of time in waterfalls, rivers. And later one night, the family called me and told me that he was killed. And I remember that I started thinking different stuff, and at one point I realized that maybe life gave me the gift of knowing him, and when he died, give me the gift of liberation. Because since this day I don't understand the same way everything. I understand that money is not important. The more important thing that you can do is meaningful things. Something that makes you wake up in the morning like, woo, another day. Yeah, I'm alive. And he gave me this gift. In April 2018, ICE came to our community and they was kidnapping people from this community. So we decided to start mobilizing food. We have a lot of places that we can resort, that we can call and they offer us food. So we start sending food to different houses because people was too afraid to leave the house to even go and buy grocery stores. So we send food and know your rights for them to protect their own selves. And I remember that one family was brave enough to come driving from Hendersonville to Asheville. And I remember that was kids and mothers there, and everybody was crying. And they started asking me, Everything is going to be okay. Tell me then everything is going to be okay. And I was like, I don't know. Only in this moment I feel a voice from inside me. Then came, I don't know from where, then say, we're going to be okay. Because this is not the first time that people came to terrorize our community and we are oppressed here. So this voice came from very deep inside me, a voice that I never heard before. And I remember, so I'm saying all these stories. So I think that the way that I mature these stories is always having a traumatic experience, then wake me up and make me understand life in different ways. Because I tell you, then I can see my girlfriend die, and I can see my cousin die, and I can see ice being here like a wake up for me. Because at this moment, nothing tastes the same. If I see raining, I know hiding from the rain. I'm enjoying the rain because this can be the last time, then I can enjoy the rain. This is a big teach for me in all this experience. And I start realizing where this voice came inside me, and I start thinking, when she asked me, the kids asked me if everything is going to be okay, where this voice coming from? And I start realizing then was because in this moment I understand that I am the person, then I am the change. I need to start doing something to protect the community, your community, my community. This is mine too. I live here too. And the dream is then, I hope then one day then I'll be the example to somebody else. And then later we're going to be two. I'm hoping then one day we're going to be three. And dreaming then one day it's going to be the full community protecting the community. This is the big dream. And I see a lot of ways then the system divide us. We have a president, then he's saying, you need to hate these people. These immigrant people came here to take your jobs. And I drive my bicycle in downtown, and I can hear people, go back to Mexico! And the crazy part for me is that the president never have been in the struggle. Never have been a working class. Only the president have working class people fighting with another working class people. Because it's a way then the system divides us. Like even today, imagine this, we are talking about community, about being together, and we are here in this stage. Like if we was a rock stars, then it's no a reason to be here. Because, so a lot of people call us activists. Then I always say to the people, then I'm not an activist. I only somebody that care enough about this community because this is my community. And we need to end these kids in cages. We need to end these kids in cages. Because it's our kids. If you think in a way that we are a human family, this is our kids. I hope that we are not waiting for these kids to be wide enough to start caring. Because this family is there, is the mother of somebody. It's my mother, because this is a human family. I hope that we start thinking more in the human, then they are humans. The system is telling us then they are illegals. They don't belong to here. Why you think, sometimes I go and talk in different places, and people start saying, why they came here in the first place? First they have the narrative, then say oh, these people came and take your jobs. Oh no, they are criminals. Only how you going to say this about one kid? How you want to say then one kid is a criminal? So we need to change this narrative. And today, we want to invite you to start taking these cages down and break the cage. And we know that this is not the first time that this happened. Because a lot of people think, oh wow, 2018 start caging people. And it's no, the base of this country have been the cage, a separation of family. We are in indigenous land, and you can see there's not a lot of indigenous people in this room. So people came here and start making the genocide with indigenous people. And later, they went to Africa and started kidnapping people from Africa, separating families. So separation of families not started in 2018.
That's right.
People being in cages not started in 2018. Only we can start to do something now. Only we need to own. Then we are part. I own this. Every time that I pay taxes, I always think, some of this money that I'm paying is going to one of these detention centers. Every time that I pay taxes, I'm helping to one kid to be in one cage. I own this. It's very painful. It's very painful. Only like today, I guess it's the part that I bring the hope. We want you to invite to be part of the new world. Then we understand the base of the country. Only we don't want this no more. It's not good for us. It's killing us. It's separating us. So today, we have the tools to break the cage. So I invite you. So we invite you to use the tool. Then this is a representation. Only we hope. Then this gives you motivation enough
Yes.
to
Thank you.
start breaking the
Thank you.
cage. And if you don't want to wake up from your seat, I invite you to hold the hand of somebody else, because we need to be the hope. The people besides you need to be the hope. Then you want, then you expect, then you dream. And this is how we're gonna look the new world. Because sometimes I don't know you feel in this way. Then sometimes the problems are too big, then I think, oh my God, I can do nothing. I'm only this person in this world, so I can do something. So the only way to change something is like come together and start fixing the problem, because the problems are too big.
That's what I do.
And we need to know then the end
Good job.
is gonna be just the beginning. So
Great job.
how would this feel?
The end is the beginning.
And it's the beginning.
End is the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Liberate my people!
And if you want to feel that hope and commitment, we hope that you'll reach out to the people nearby you and touch each other and commit to each other to be in community today, to start a new beginning right here in this room. Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. The end is the beginning.